Okay, so from the beginning there, that first measure of D is just basically, all the downs are on the fourth or the fourth and third strings. Right. So you really want to try to, I mean, if you were only hitting one string with all of that, we'd have this. So I was really distinctly hitting exactly one thing for every stroke. And what we really want them to do is be a little softer than that by having them like even when I hit this D in the bass, I want to hear more like a little bit of the other string. Listen, this will sound much softer. You hear the difference? It's like, it was not just one note at a time, but you still heard that same melody. So the strings are like blended together better. So so you can even start with on just this D chord, just hitting the downs, trying to get two notes, trying to get the fourth and the third strings.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me think of it. And so you got to make sure that the pick is angled up quite a bit. If you go in there with it perpendicular to the strings, you can't hit two strings, or one will be really loud.
Yeah.
So it's more of a, you almost go in at like a 45-degree angle to the strings. Yeah.
Okay.
And don't worry about the ups yet. Don't do the ups just now. Like just kind of keep pounding on those strings, trying to get a really soft sound. And what I think I mentioned this before, but even the nail on this finger is touching the strings as I hit them. It's kind of like almost like measuring the distance to them or something.
Yeah.
So you should feel that fingernail hit the strings lightly.
Okay.
Yeah. Now then on the ups, you have to change the angle of the pick to like 45 degrees down to get the same effect on the up so the pick doesn't get caught on the string, right? So there's really this big, every down I do here, the pick kind of looks thin like that. I hope you can see it a little bit. But then when I go for the up, it's like I turn my wrist and drag the pick across the strings kind of the same way, or
Right.
the opposite way, really.
Yeah.
And and you could practice this, slow it down a little bit. Don't worry about changing the notes down here. Just on that D chord, try to get this effect. Yeah. That sounds better from what I can hear through the computer, but
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean, does that sound a little different to you than what you were getting before?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
Okay.
I need
Yeah.
to do something to my microphone so you can hear this at all.
Oh, I can hear it pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and mostly what I'm listening for here is like that you're hitting at least two strings every time, rather than just one, and that, so that again it's got this a little bit of a chord sound and not this sound. See, that's the one string sound.
Right.
Two string sound is this. See, it's a lot richer and fuller.
You're
Right?
on the up too. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the up. Now, see, I think the music, though, if the tab you have probably just shows single notes, like the fourth string by itself and the first or second string by itself on the ups.
No.
Oh, good. It's okay.
Oh no. 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 At
Okay.
all. On the ups, it's two. Yeah, it is two notes. On
Okay.
the downs, occasionally it's one.
Yeah, and so it's better to just try to aim for two every time,
Okay.
and um, and on the ups, the third up, we don't want to hear the first string, right? We're trying to hear this melody. I think what's the fourth up in there?
The fourth up is these two strings right here. Is the second and
So it's the same as the third up.
yes,
Okay, perfect. So the melody we're trying to hear there, just the highest note every time. We're trying to hear the F sharp first,
right,
then the E, and then the D.
right.
Okay. And and the fourth one is really kind of incidental because that's just yeah. And then in the second measure, does it have four bass notes all on the fifth string?
No, it has two. It has
Oh,
the pattern is C, C, and
then an up, right?
then an up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's C and then an up on
Right. The two
and
middle.
a down, and then the
Right. Okay. And then another bass note, right?
yeah. Well, then we're to here
Oh, wait, oh, so does the C and the bass only get hit once or twice in that measure?
twice.
Right, on the first beat and the third beat then.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
first and
okay.
third. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically the first half and the second half of that measure are the same.
Yes.
Yeah, or close enough.
Yeah. No, they are.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then the next measure is virtually the same with just the chord change.
Yes.
Right. And
Correct.
the fourth measure is the same with just the chord change.
Correct.
Okay. So the melody we're trying to hear in all of those measures.
The fourth is different only the last in the last up because we're transitioning to
Oh,
the because we're going to here.
okay. Yeah. Um, and so on all of those, when you hit the fifth string in the bass, usually that's going to get hit by itself because the fourth string is probably dead. Because your finger on the fifth string is probably touching it. Okay. But even if it comes out, it doesn't matter. But then the second down is basically bringing out the third string.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So we almost have an alternating bass kind of sound there where we're hearing this. Ah, something like that. But yeah, so this whole kind of concept is sometimes called focused strumming, but we're kind of like, we're aiming for little areas with each stroke, right? But that also means there's a pretty good margin for error. If you get too many strings, sometimes it's okay. I mean, if we're analyzing this so minutely compared to what Neil Young ever thought about when he was playing this song,
Yeah.
but we're also trying to like get as close to the sound that he got
Yeah.
as possible,
Right.
and
Right.
he's so he's just smooth at keeping this hand going and emphasizing certain things with every stroke,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. On when it got to the anyway, so I think you're in really good shape with this. Just keep thinking about multiple strings or the 45-degree angle with the pick, and it's maybe not 45, but it's close. With
Yeah.
on the downs, and then the opposite of that on the ups,
Right.
so that you're always dragging it across the strings rather than pushing it across the strings
Okay.
in both directions.
That's a yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Dragging it instead of pushing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
Okay.
when it gets to the C part, the next couple measures. Now we do want those bass notes pretty much. Now we don't really want multiple strings, right? We want to hear those bass notes, and this is what's going to carry over into "Tell Me Why," where most of the time those bass notes are not blurry like I'm kind of promoting here. They're crisp, right? And but this was really good. I mean, you had a good feel for this. When you did it first, like cold and out of the gate, you had a little trouble getting to the fifth string as like finding the range. But by the second time through, it's kind of like you dialed that in. So that was really good,
Okay.
And there's really only there are two other things that happen. So yeah, so you did this great. This is another place where Like that up should be, now you're kind of aiming for even a slightly bigger up, like probably 3 strings. Until the melody gets to the 3rd string. You know, when you get to the 3rd string with the bass notes,
Yeah.
then now you're just aiming for the 2 above it to like not restrum on the up the note you hit on the down.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think we talked about this. This sort of relates to something we were talking about with just strumming a John Prine song or just doing something like this. When you've got bass notes going back and forth, you want to make sure that particularly the higher bass note is not part of the strum like ever. You want to make sure that this doesn't get blurred like this. See, like the bass notes just disappeared there.
Yeah.
You know, you could almost hear this as like a stereo effect where... So you hear that real clearly here because every strum is just the other strings.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the same effect we're looking for here
Okay.
with this. Yeah, let me hear you do that again.
Okay.
No, don't forget all the strums are ups here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I flipped you into John Prine mode, and you just kind of went, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes that high E is not coming out real clear. Like I almost have the feeling that your left hand is touching it lightly, either your fingertip here or a finger in here. So just put the C chord on, and now let me hear that. Let me hear that string. That's what it should sound like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was feeling a little muffled sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was your left hand. Yeah, I think it was something down there. So you got to hear that E, these notes really cleanly. You know, hear that just ring out. Is there any chance that when you finish the up, as you do an up and get ready to hit the next bass note, some finger here touches the first string, like you brushed the first string?
Yeah, probably is.
Because that's almost what it's sounding like. It's not sounding like it's dead. I'm hearing it for a second, then I hear it die like right away. So I hear something like this. Let me think about mechanically how to do this. Yeah, like I did an up there, and then I lightly touched well, more than lightly. It's like I went in and grabbed the string. And I have a feeling that as your hand is getting ready for a down, one of these 2 fingers might brush the first string a little bit and kill it.
Probably my bent one.
So,
as a hand position, I mean, should I completely close it up?
you know what? I don't like that generally because I think that makes everything tense in your hand. You know, this hand has to be really relaxed. And so if you try to make a fist there, you'll grab the pick tighter and stuff. I mean, it tenses up everything, you know, the back of your hand and stuff. Yep. So it's really, those fingers should just be hanging loose, but they shouldn't be like touching the strings.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me
So let's see if that's actually part of an issue.
be conscious of about five things at once
Yeah.
here. So.
Oh, man, you got plenty of brain power. Come on.
Yeah. 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 Right. Right. Good. Just have to find out which pathway it's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's better. That would even be a really good way to test it. What you just did there is just hit a bass note and do an up, and then get ready to hit the next bass note and see if you still hear that E ringing or if it died. Yeah, those
Okay.
first couple were really good. Did you hear it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the first
Yeah.
couple. Yeah,
And I think that when you did the hammer on, after you did the hammer on, or you were ready to move to the third string, your position might have changed a little here, and now I think your left hand was killing the first string a little bit as you started moving down here.
okay.
I'm again just kind of guessing, but
Yeah, no, that's yeah. Okay.
better, definitely better. That was great. Like all I was listening to right there was the tone of each E. So it's like if you didn't get the bass notes right or something, that didn't even matter right there. It's like so.
Yeah.
Um, as you're practicing this, you sometimes have to just focus on listening to one thing. It's really hard to pay attention to everything, and that's like right there. You could get a wrong note with the hammer on, and you could be so focused on making sure that E rings that you don't even know that you played the wrong thing down here, and that's great. And it's just that, like we were just kind of teasing about. Sometimes you really got to pay attention to just one thing and ignore everything else and make sure that one thing is good. Then go on to the second one or the third one or the fifth one, um, and then hopefully, like if you pay a lot of attention to making sure that that E sounds good,
Uh-huh.
and you're getting it, and then you go back and focus on the hammer-ons or the melody notes or something like that. If an E comes out bad, there's a chance you might hear it kind of subconsciously. It's like, oh man, it might jump out at you, like, oh, that was that. Even though you weren't really paying attention to it.
Yeah.
And this sort of relates. When we work on finger picking songs where your thumb's hitting bass notes, and
Right.
especially if their bass notes are a little bit unusual or something, and you're playing a melody like Grandfather's Clock or something, and I might have talked about this when we were talking about that song. If you're really focused on the melody and you hit a wrong bass note, you might not even know. It's like, hey, you just hit the same bass note 3 times in a row. Did you know that? It says, no, I didn't. But if you'd hit a wrong melody note, you would have known it. It's like because you were focused on that. And so I think, and I hope to not drag you through this story too many times, but I think if you focus on the bass notes and make sure they're exactly right, and a melody note goes wrong, you'll still probably hear that. In other words, I think you can listen to the melody subconsciously, but you
Yes.
can't listen to the bass subconsciously.
Yes.
And so if you're focused on the bass, that's so. What I'm saying is, if you mess up, I mean, if you get the melody right and you mess up a bass note, you might not notice it. But if you're focused on the bass and you mess up a melody note, it'll probably still jump out at you. And that's kind of what could be happening here. If you're
Yeah.
so sometimes you just got to focus.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. I hear that too. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now that one's touching down here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. you're right. When I went to here, I sort of dropped that into the mix there,
Right.
like we were going to a little F or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so okay,
Yeah. And
okay,
probably last thought on this, when it goes to the E sus4 chord that comes up after the C,
uh-huh.
um, it's a tricky chord to get to. First of all, to squeeze those three fingers into those notes, I mean, and
Oh,
especially with the first note you have to play. If we're going to finger it that way, what I'm going to talk about is like possible alternate ways to finger that chord. Because the one thing I don't like about that fingering, but I use it commonly, is it's you can't get all three of those fingers really close to the fret at the same time. Your fingers are just too big, right?
right,
You know, and so so a lot of times when you put the first one you need because of the way it goes in the song is your little finger. And it's kind of hard to get your little finger there without having it be like over the fret. I mean, it's kind of a drastic spot for your little finger to go. And if you don't get close enough to the fret, you've just sabotaged the other two notes that they're not going to get anywhere near close enough, right? So, and I think when I saw you do this earlier, you pretty much tried to put the whole thing down at once. And you do it, you can kind of take your time and build this chord one finger at a time, starting because of the pattern because of the order of the notes down here.
right, right.
And you could even do that there. So how do there? This is very similar to an A chord, right? I mean, it's the same kind of thing that we would do with A. And I usually tell people to play A like that, right? So you could absolutely start this E sus. You could play this E sus chord just like you play an A chord, and you might. And the advantage to that is you get your fingers closer to the fret. Well, I would switch my first and second fingers, right?
Okay,
And the only disadvantage to this is then you have to rebuild the E chord kind of from scratch.
right.
Whereas when you do this, you only have to, move one finger. But so I want you to kind of like, or I'd recommend experimenting with different fingerings for that chord, and maybe go with the A fingering rather than the other ones. Just depending on if you commonly get that last note, if it buzzes because it's not close enough to the fret, the one on the fifth string.
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever messed with these, but a lot of other alternate ways of playing an A chord, a lot of people play it with just two fingers. With like one finger kind of like put your second finger there, yeah. And use your first finger to play the other two notes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I even have other students do that same thing with different fingers, with their third finger and second finger. And
Oh,
so basically we're using one finger to yeah, and again that's what I call a hinge bar when you're pressing down across multiple strings, with yeah, that, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
So anyway, so all of those are useful ways or alternate ways of doing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this way, if you can make it come out clean, then we're just
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah. One thing I would do is if you start the sus4 the way we are with 2, 3, and 4 like this, um, these two fingers, of course, can't be as close to the fret as we'd like because your fourth finger's in the way, right?
Correct.
So, so what I would do when would finger this way, again, I would put them down like one at a time to make sure I get as close to the fret as possible. But then, when I go to the E chord, I'm going to probably move these up a little closer too. So it's like once I get my fourth finger out of there, take up that extra real estate.
Right.
Oh, and on those ups,
Yeah.
make sure you get the first string. I wasn't hearing the first string at all there. We weren't starting it far enough.
I don't think I went. Yeah, I don't think I went
Yeah,
there.
yeah, you were kind of yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget the sixth string there too.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, by then you're going to let go. That last up will be across just open strings because you're heading back to the
Right.
D, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The only other, well, there are two other things that happen in the song. When the singing's going on, he doesn't. First of all, on the C chord, he doesn't play any of this. So he never sings while he does that. So when he's singing, he just strums the C chord and to an F chord, right? Damaged and then he still does the picking on the E chord, right? But so that should be later on in the music where it just shows a C and an F,
C and an F, then and then the E sus4.
right? And then there's a little tricky run that happens instead of the E chord, or it starts with the E chord, and we hear this. Ah. That's what it is. So that E chord, does the tablature show that pretty much what I just
Yeah,
did
it
there?
does.
Yeah, yeah. So this time we have it starts with the third string, right? And then a hammer on the fifth string, and another up, and then a slide up to the fourth fret. And so you would do that so the hammer on you would just do with your second finger that's right there on that string anyway.
Right.
And then you'd slide up from the second to the fourth fret, and then back to the second fret with just a couple of ups across the top two open strings right there.
Okay, the slide is okay. So let me just
The slide would be the third bass note.
okay. Okay.
So actually, yeah.
And then am I
Now,
on
and so let go of the rest of the chord. When you do that slide, it's only one finger.
okay. Okay. So I'm only hitting that.
Yeah, but you actually need to be moving as you hit it. Like we don't even really hear that note at the second fret. Yeah.
And I'm hitting when I get to the fourth fret,
No, you're not hitting it again.
I'm not. Okay.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And is there a little strum after that? An up? Right. And then just reach back to the second fret.
Oh, you lit like that?
Yeah, yeah. So don't move your hand back. Just use the finger that's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah. And then to the open D string. And then you're back at a D chord, so the next thing you do is hit the fourth string open and put the D chord down. Right. See, so that's kind of why we don't bring your third finger back here, because by using your first finger for that last note, you're in good position to get right back to D.
we're right back to the D. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And
Make
then
sense? You got that clear, kind of think?
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so try that measure from the beginning. What's the first bass note in that measure? Is it the G sharp on the?
It's no in the E measure.
Yeah.
The first is it's that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the E.
So what was the measure before?
The measure before was the E sus4.
And is there tablature to that? Does it show how's that picked?
It's oh, it's
Oh, okay, right. Okay, got it. Okay, so this doesn't have this. It doesn't have the one that we had in the intro.
no.
For the okay, right. That makes sense. Okay. So for the sus4, it's more just like normal strumming. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. So it would
Right. Okay. And then the hammer on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sort
I
of.
think you got it.
Yeah, and then we'll see. Then it goes all the way. Then it goes the outro, which all looks familiar.
It's all, yeah, there's nothing else new or different in the rest of the song, and it just ends on the B flat in the bass.
Yeah,
It's
with
it's, it's a hanging ending.
it kind of slides. What does it do there? I don't know what that means.
What?
So
Which part are you looking at?
I'm looking at the very last measure in the thing, which the very last measure in the whole thing that ends in the B flat is let's see, it's one.
Yeah, but you need the B flat in the bass, right? The first fret.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Right. Oh yeah, yeah. We're all the way to here.
Yeah.
Right. And then it looks like it. I don't know what. Does this go anywhere or is it?
No, no. I think that just sounds like a little flourish. That's yeah. Hold it up. A little higher. Okay, right there. Good. Hold it still. Oh, oh. Okay, got it. Yeah. Those are just tie cymbals, meaning let it ring.
Oh, just let it ring.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. 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 So the very last.
yeah. And you'd still have the B flat in the bass. Like we'd still hear that note, right? So all those notes are just ringing. Yeah.
Okay.
Best of my recollection is basically the last four measures are the intro. And it just like, yeah.
And
So
it drops off right there.
yeah, yeah. He just brings it to a halt when after.
Doesn't resolve itself.
No, no, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to a student. The lesson that I think it's out now. Yeah, that came out today. I was talking to a student about like weird endings and stuff like that because we are going into how do you determine whether a song's like in the key of C or A minor, for example. I says, well, at the end of the song, which one's going to feel like home, you know? And the song that today's lesson is on, "Can You Read My Mind?" This theme song from Superman. I don't know if you remember the song at all, but eventually it ends with, it's in the key of E, but it had, and it ends like just way far away from an E chord, you know, but it's, it was a good example of what we were talking about. It's like, does it sound like it got home? And she says, no, where the hell, you know, what the heck's going on? I said, well, it's what great songwriters. That was John Williams, you know, the movie guy.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know, that
Yeah,
wrote that.
yeah.
You know, so
John Williams. Yeah. He's still around, isn't
yeah, I think so. He's got to be getting into. He's got to be 80ish.
he? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and of course he shares a name with a famous guitar player too, which always adds to the musical confusion in the world of the
Oh,
classical guitarist John Williams. You know.
right. 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 Right.
Well,
Uh,
let's take a quick look at Tell Me Why.
yeah. Yeah. Take a look at Tell Me Why. Okay. Tell Me Why. So tell me why the chords and all are pretty straightforward here. Um,
Good. Yeah, and it's a lot like in the Needle and the Damage Done. What happened on the C chord? You know, you're picking out
yeah.
a little bit of melody in a lot of spaces. Sometimes it's real simple. Just you know, sometimes it's as simple as what we had. What was the Beatles tune we just did? I've Just Seen a Face.
I've seen face. Yeah.
You know, where you've just like on a G chord, you've just got a hammer on the second bass note, or on a C, or on an
Yeah.
E minor. You
Yeah.
know, And so it's a lot of times that's what happens. Matter of fact, that's a really common thing. That's what happens on a lot of the second bass notes. Like it, so
Yeah.
this just opens up with a little walk up to the C, right?
Yep.
And then we get to the C chord, just a bass and a down and up, and then the hammer on, and then a hammer on the third string, right?
No, there's it opens up. Let's see. In the second,
Okay. Yeah, let me take a look. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Okay. Got it. Um that doesn't look like it's got enough strumming in it. Let me
no date on here. 1970.
That was the date of the album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the date I did the tablature. Oh yeah. Okay, that's right. That's the same one I have.
Okay.
Okay, so on the second beat of the second measure, what's not clear is that that's a strum. That's a down, just a down strum.
That's a down.
Yeah. No, but it's notice it's the second fret. It's not a G. It's an A. The first note in the second measure.
Oh, the second measure. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to move that finger, and you got to move that finger back. Yeah. And oh wait, and that's a new chord. Yeah. Then let go of the chord because there are two bass notes at the end of the measure, right? Oh no, there aren't. Okay. I guess I always played this like my own way and made it a lot fancier because this is when this album came out in 1970. It was one of the well, you know, it was the early day. I was like 14, but I remember like buying it. Oh, it was right after I went to my first concert in June of that year. It was Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young at the Oakland Coliseum, and they played some stuff off. They played Southern Man. So this album had not been released yet in June. I think it came out a little bit later in the year. But Southern Man was still like a big deal for the show they did, right? But nobody had heard it yet, you know. And so I remember then this album came out shortly after that. And my friend Mike and I, who was my guitar playing buddy when we were kids, well, still is. I talked to him like a month ago, you know. And so he's been a friend for, you know, 55 years, right? And we spent a lot of time like trying to figure out everything that happened, this whole album like by ear, you know, and just hearing that opening guitar lick in "Tell Me Why" was like, oh my God, that's like the coolest thing. What's you know, one of the coolest things I've ever heard. And then he gave me just an incredible piece of advice that I've passed on to many people, and it was just sort of I'm sure he doesn't even remember saying this to me, but it was we were listening to Southern Man, and Southern Man opens up with no real guitar. It's it's piano and bass and drums and stuff like that, you know, and so I'm listening to that and I'm saying, how can we figure out these chords? You know, it's what the heck is going on here? It says we just listen to the bass, find the bass notes, then you'll be able to find the chords. I thought, and you know, in 2 minutes we had the song figured out. It was like so anyway, this was one of those albums that I figured every song out by ear, you know, and grew like 10 years in 2 weeks as far as a musician, you know. And so now when I play "Tell Me Why," I play it more complicated than I would do something like this maybe. Now, most of those things did happen somewhere in there. But then
Yeah.
when I went to the trouble to do exactly what he did in the intro, it's simpler than like what I just did there. But so it's anyway. But yeah, I have this was a real important song in my musical evolution. You know.
So it's a this is a basically a bluegrassy kind of strum thing, though, right?
Yeah, you're just hitting bass notes on one and three, and occasionally on four. But yeah, so sometimes you have more, you know, but you're just keeping the same motion going like we were doing in I've Just Seen a Face.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Let me. Oh, you know what? I'm sure that the lesson I have on this has me play through this really slowly. But since I'm recording this for you right now, let me just play exactly what I have in the tab and see what we got.
Okay.
Oh, that is why I labeled that the verse. Okay, and then in the chorus, I'll come back to that thought. In the chorus, we have this. And then I got to flip pages here to the G major 7. Oh, it's a C add 9. There we go. Ah, and now we're at the intro, which is what I had in my head, which is where it's a little more complicated. So looking at the intro, measure 26, I guess that is.
Yep.
We have the little walk into the bass. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have a little boy. Then I have, yeah, so it looks like I did go to a lot of trouble to bring out a lot of, you know, different options with this.
Right.
So, but it looks like, yeah, so that, I'm glad I looked at that because that kind of confused me that I definitely remember the intro being more complicated than what I just saw at the top of the page right there, right? But you can see I put the intro later because I think that the progression that I usually take a student through with this is don't start with the intro. Get smooth at just playing the chords as if you're singing first, and then tackle the intro that is a little bit more elaborate.
Okay.
But
Okay.
just get used to strumming through the chord progression with like simple bass notes, you know,
Right.
and
Okay. And so the actually the way that this is laid out after the we're singing,
yep,
singing parts, right?
yeah,
Right
yeah,
at the point right there.
yeah. But the real version starts with the intro where he
Oh,
doesn't
the
sing.
intro. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
but so
Yeah.
yeah, so okay, so where we are, so that's why I've got that part labeled as the verse. That means you're singing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're singing there, and then the chorus there, and the G in the chorus after the D and then the A minor 7. That's a
And then there's a little bounce to a C here. The two middle fingers. I'm sorry, your first. I'm pretty sure. Let me look at that. Yeah, so we're in the fourth measure of that line. See, it gets to the G chord early, right? You see the G chord happens on the fourth beat of the third measure.
yeah.
And then there's a little bounce to a C chord. Look at the tab in the middle of the fourth measure.
Yep.
Okay, so you gotta put on those two fingers for a C, and then they come back off by the fourth
Ah,
beat.
oh.
See that?
Yep. Yep. I do.
Yeah. So and then the same thing or something. Oh, it doesn't happen the next time. Uh, So there's a quick up. There's an up on the end of beat 1,
yeah.
and then the down on beat 2 is when you have to move your first and second fingers to the C. Yeah, well, but keep those other 2 notes on, right? So you keep the rest of the G chord on.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
I see. I see. I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
You hear
see.
that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Uh,
So there are a lot of little embellishments, that happen throughout this. As I see that tab there, I'm thinking, oh man, I put a lot of stuff in there that uh, that he does, rather than just saying, oh, sometimes try this or something. Anyway, so
yeah.
so I think what you'll really have to do is just kind of pour through it a few times and see what doesn't make sense. And while you're gone, if you want to just text me or something, if you have any questions or problems with it, feel free to ping me if there's something real
Okay.
specific that I could answer. Because also, hopefully, you can get a chance to watch the lesson on it. I don't know, I don't remember what's in there because it was many years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will. I'll do that before I leave, actually. And that'll cover the verse variations here on the other page.
Yeah.
Um, and
Let me
this
look at
is
that again. Actually, let me see. Verse variations.
on the second page.
Oh yeah, it really just here. I'll play that, but it's just a few little. It's just like some extra hammer-ons. So it'd be like this. The C would be this. Oh, the main thing is now I've got downs and ups in the strumming. See, whereas most of the time we just had downs as quarter notes,
Yep.
but now it'd be more of this. That is really fancy. That was happening on the D chord. Then the A minor 7. Yeah. So I don't know that I got that off the record or if I just made it up as something that would be a really elaborate way to do it. And
Yeah.
then the chorus variations, let me see what I have there. Ah, right. So I'm kind of like letting go of that D chord early. That's my favorite thing to do, that C to G with the walk down in the bass. That's the second line of the chorus variations
Yes.
on the C. See what I did there? I hit the C chord, and then a B and an A getting to the G on the fourth beat. Because he's singing, "Tell me why is it," and then it continues with the next measure. That tag variation is not what would happen next. That tag variation is just a fancy ending, I think. Yeah, so it's kind of just a. Let me do it one more time. So I'll try to get it exactly right for you, but. I'm sure that didn't happen on the record, but something like that would have happened. It probably would have been this. More of a typical bluegrassy thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but I don't want you. Let's not get too caught up in that just yet. You got a lot of stuff in
Okay.
that to mess with in there.
Oh yeah. Now I have a feel for what this should be doing. So, in general, if we're in 4/4 time and we have four quarter notes in any measure, those are always all downs,
Yeah, yeah,
and all the ands, everything that's on an and is going to be an up coming out of the one before, right?
right. So you're keeping up a steady flow of eighth notes, or quarter notes or downs, and eighths. You got 8 strokes in every measure.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Um, and then like in the chorus where we're going to the G on 4. Yeah, that's
almost. Hang on. Something that's really important there is when we get to the G on 4 in that measure of C,
Yeah.
we don't hit the down on 1 after it. See how it's tied over to beat 1?
Yes.
So you hear you'd hear something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So and that's a really normal thing to do when you play a chord early. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what, and then again, that's what those ties show us in the music,
Yeah.
that you're not going to hit that down on 1.
You're just going to miss it, though. I mean,
Right.
you're right.
Perfect. That's the way that works.
Okay. Okay.
So,
That's great. Cool.
okay, that should keep you busy for the 3 weeks that you're going to be traveling.
Yeah.
If you want to try a lesson on the road, let me know too. You know, if you're going to take a computer and Skype. I mean, one of my students is on his way to Georgia and then Italy, and we already have a plan for how we're going to connect while he's working. You know.
Really? Oh, he's going to Italy?
Yeah.
I didn't think we could do that. Maybe there's work visa.
He's working and he repairs aquariums. I mean, like the Monterey Bay Aquarium, not like aquariums at your house, you know. And so he flies all over the world and will spend 2 or 3 weeks in exotic places that have these massive aquariums, you know, that are, you know, museums and places open to the public. And he's turned this into his life. And so he's like the first call people make when they have major problems with their aquarium systems.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, kind of
That's
exotic.
interesting. Huh. Fun.
Okay.